Hey guys, what's going on? It's Brandon. Welcome to the van studio, right? So we've been working on this van, trying to get it ready to be like a little mobile home. And I've really been coming up with some pretty cool ideas. But the reason for this video, I'm just going to not waste time, I'm going to jump into this, is I'm going to talk about quantum computers and why they're basically a scam, and why it is a mechanism that's allowing the elites to vacuum money away from the masses and give it to the elites using this scam. So, and why they know it's a scam. So, before we go any further, let me bring your attention to something. Most people don't understand how options work. It's kind of like the horse track, meaning the horse track is not a charity. They don't give money to the masses. You pay to go see the horses, and then you're allowed to bet on the horses. And when you're there betting on the horses, if a horse doesn't have a lot of people betting on it, then it has really good odds if it wins. And so if you are, organized crime, you want to get the best of the masses, what you do is you make it so that the horse that everybody's betting on can't win. Maybe you poison it, maybe you mess up its legs, maybe you pay off the jockey to purposely not run the horse strong. But the point is, so you understand the concept of odds. And so in the stock market, when you're losing money, understand someone else somewhere is making money simultaneously. So what I want to bring your attention to is, and I'm really kind of kicking myself hard right now for not taking better advantage of this when I knew that this was going to be the case this week. Okay, so what I've done here is I've pulled up the graph of okay, so this is a 2-hour chart of RGTI, which is a quantum computer company. And as you can see, in the last few days, that thing has dipped big time. So it went from 2142 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and now it's down to, it touched all the way down to $9 even. Now, if yesterday, after the first drop, you would have still bought some put options. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the puts. I'm going to show you something here. Let's say that you would have bought some puts at, let's say, $14, meaning the stock's got to get down to $14 for you to get paid something. Understand something. As of 1/6, so January 6th, you could have bought those put options between 5 and 10 cents, okay, for a set of contracts. Now, that's what the majority of the middle of the screen is. Shows the low of 5 cents. It goes up to 10, 15 cents. But you could have loaded the boat there between 5 and 10 cents if you would have bet on it going down to 14 on January 6th. Okay. Now, meanwhile, if you go to today, okay, at the end of market close today, it was all the way up to $5.10 for those same contracts. So you would have multiplied, let's say you would have bought them at 10 cents, you would have multiplied your money times 50. Whatever amount of money you would have invested, it would have multiplied times 50. So these kind of situations are how certain elites, certain organized crime, certain politicians, this is how they make their money, okay? They know that there's going to be events, and if they can pre-plan the events, then they can make really good money. So quantum computers, I always said, was a pre-planned event. I said they're destined to fail because they do not work. And why is that? Because quantum theory itself is flawed. And what they've done is they've made physics extremely complex on purpose for the safety of our species. And the reason why I say that is if you go to, and by the way, before I forget, if you go down to like the $11 strike, you could have bought those for a penny, and they still were, $3. So you could have multiplied your money times 300. Okay. So anyway, you understand that concept now. So there's a lot of physicists that go on to work at Wall Street. Some of the top hedge fund managers, the most profitable hedge fund managers of all time, are ex-physicists who decided, okay, we're going to go to Wall Street because there's no money in physics. And the reason why there's no money in physics, for those of you saying, well, why don't you just come up with the next physics breakthrough and then sell that and then You could be a billionaire that way, like an Elon Musk. And the reason being is because we're not allowed to go to the next level of physics, at least not the obvious one. There's a certain one that's off limits. There's a certain category of physics that are off limits for us, and I'm going to explain that. And you can tangent off to other things that aren't harmful, but these certain areas that are harmful, we're not allowed to go there. And so when you talk about, let's talk about like the nuclear bomb at Hiroshima. It was said to have like a 5% effective efficiency rate, meaning 95% of the bomb material wasn't even used, and look at the damage that it did. So imagine for a moment if you had a bomb that was 5% the size of the one that was dropped on Hiroshima, you could still do the same amount of destruction. But it actually gets worse than that. And I've had some Facebook people correct me over the years, and I don't argue with them because it's neither here nor there. People can either understand this and believe this or they don't have to, but the concept is this. What makes you think that humanity absolutely knows with 100% certainty what the maximum efficiency of a nuclear bomb is? What makes you think that it's not possible that they have some sort of breakthrough in their understanding? They say, oh shit, these things could be 100 times stronger, 1,000 times stronger if we did this. Okay, so now you're talking about, instead of something be 5% of the size of the nuke that went off, on Japan, where it's like the size of a softball, you have something that's instead like the size of like a cube of sugar could do what happened in Japan. Okay, so I just want to be very clear that that is possible. Even though you're not taught that that's possible, it's possible. Give me a second here. I'm going to get a drink. Got my little heater blowing on me and it dries me out. So I want you to imagine for a moment that this isn't intelligent life's first rodeo and that humanity has been destroyed before with really big bombs. And once the masses figure out that technology, the masses don't have enough common sense, long-term thinking capability to say, you know what, this is going to result in our species being annihilated in nuclear winter. We need to not mess with these things. So you always have somebody somewhere who has nothing to lose because he's starving to death or he thinks he's entitled to more, he or she, whatever it is, and they end up sending off these nukes, or maybe they're just drunk or on drugs or whatever, they're doing mushrooms. Dude, the key is if you set off the nuke and look into the fire. Okay, who knows what these people come up with, but the point is, the masses with nuclear warhead, nuclear understanding is the problem. And you got to realize how many nukes were built with between America and Russia and everybody. It's tens of thousands each country built. So when you realize that, it wasn't the tooth fairy that brought these nukes. It was human beings who understood how to build them. And you got to understand that those human beings, had there not been opposing teams, may have never joined a team. So what I mean is, let's say you have the John Lennon world peace, the Martin Luther King world peace, okay, Jesus world peace. Okay, let's say you have this world peace and there's no opposing religions, no opposing races, just, we're all just going to get along and go wherever, and you can live wherever you want, and you got to still pay for property, but you can live wherever you want and go do whatever you want to do. Imagine that you had that. Well, then at that point, anybody who wants to build a nuclear bomb has no team to join because there are no opposing teams. So for there to be a safe world, you have to have organized chaos. And I've known this for a long time. I've known it since high school, because these things would just magically pop into my head. And I say magically because I genuinely feel like this universe knew that I was going to stumble down this path because I was already thinking about it, just different things. And this universe is like, you need to hold your horses, buddy, before you start running your mouth. There's more to this world than meets the eye. Here's the greater good behind why things are the way they are. And when you understand that if you got to protect humanity from blowing itself up as priority number one, and that takes precedence over wars that are fought over racism, wars that are fought over religion, allowing those people who want to fight over religion and races and locations of birth, allowing those people an outlet to eliminate their DNA from the gene pool. The most effective way to get to peaceful German Shepherds that are peaceful and obedient is to control breed wolves, where the most violent of each litter of wolves, who's the least obedient, you kill those off and you keep the most peaceful, obedient of the bunch. And so I used to really have a big problem with stupidity, because I felt that stupidity, when we needed to control breed humanity, not where it's like, hey, I'm going to control who you have sex with, and hey, I'm just saying we need to set up some IQ tests and humiliate the dumb fucks of the world and put them in their place and make sure that the females know, if you breed with that idiot, you're going to have some stupid kids. Or you could get, a sperm donor or whatever. Here's a guy whose brain actually fucking works, like Elon Musk or whatever. I used to think about that, of just throw it out there and teach everybody that concept, and we could cure humanity from being so stupid. But what I've realized is over the years, and I've known this, and it's quite the paradox, these deeper topics that I think about, is it's not just about intelligence, it's more about obedience to who's ahead of you in line, which is the opposite of liberty and freedom and justice for all. It means chain of command, like the military. And so by having the opposing teams, you're guaranteed at least that the top physicists are kind of motivated, highly motivated to join one of the teams, because you're not allowed to be a private company working on nuclear stuff. To be a private company working on nuclear stuff, you got to jump through all kinds of hurdles. You may as well be part of you're working for government contracts, basically. It's just, everything kind of touches back to the government when you start messing with nuclear stuff. Now, before we go any further, what does nuclear mean? Nuclear means anything on the atomic scale. So to understand electrons, atoms, protons, neutrons, how they move, what they do, why they do what they do, that's all nuclear stuff. And in the patent office, if you if there's patents that have to do with breakthroughs in atomic stuff, 99 times out of 100, they're confiscated as Secrecy Act of 1951, important to keep secret for national security. And so the amount of patents that are classified is tremendous. And when you look at the guy who basically got us away from the proper understanding of physics, he coincidentally worked at the patent office. His name was Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein was very familiar with the concept that governments were seizing patents that had to do with atomic physics. And if Einstein, being the curious fellow that he was, may have asked people in the patent office and people within his government, hey, can you please explain to me why these are being censored? This could really benefit humanity. If they decided to enlighten Einstein and say, hey man, this isn't intelligent life for rodeo, we actually have record, the Catholic Church has record, the Jewish elite have record, the Alexandria Library had record of humanity figuring out this technology and everything going to shit. And then the dark ages were imposed on purpose, where we basically took away people's electricity and way of life, so that they'd end up in the dark ages again and become tribal for a while and forget what they had figured out. Okay, so they purposely messed up the economy, if you will. And you say, well, there's no proof that the ancients had electricity. Yeah, there is. Inside the Pyramid of Giza, there's no soot. Okay, there was never any torches brought into Giza. And you can't use mirrors to reflect light all throughout Giza, okay? It doesn't work. So the Giza was built and traversed by someone with a flashlight. Okay, we're just going to put it that way. At minimum, they had a flashlight. Okay, so when you look at the steps inside these things that are melted from high current cables that were draped down through these steps, okay, the metal's like molten down the steps where the steps are melted. But the point is, okay, so I put up on Facebook 2 different videos, and I appreciate you guys bearing with me. This is a really deep subject, and this will actually answer a lot of your questions about life in general, if you have them. If you say, why don't the elites let the economy go? Why do the elites always fuck with the economy? I'm about to show you. So if you go to Facebook, I put up 2 videos, and these 2 videos are, as soon as my phone gets range here, reception. Okay, so first video is this one, so I want you to listen very carefully.
It's a blatant contradiction.
Hang on.
People sort of stare at it, and it's so blatant. With the problems of quantum mechanics, it has this blatant contradiction in it. It's not just a subtlety, it's blatant. You follow the Schrödinger equation, you don't get the right answer. You have to collapse the wave function to get the right answer. Collapsing the wave function is in contradiction with the Schrödinger equation or with unitary evolution. It's a blatant contradiction. But people sort of stare at it, and it's so blatant that they just sort of argue it away. I don't know. Or they use wrong arguments to argue it away. My argument is that quantum mechanics is not quite right. There is an
Okay.
unlimited
So that's
amount
the
of
first
real
thing. So we're going to talk about what he just said.
estate out.
So quantum mechanics is based on the Schrodinger stuff, and it's also based on Einstein. And basically, he's basically saying for us to still do proper physics and come up with the right answer, we have to use wave function physics, which is ether-based physics, which I'll explain so that even a 5-year-old can understand it here in a second. And I want you to listen to me very carefully. But before I get into that, I'm going to give you another teaser here about the depth of what we're going to talk about. And this gentleman here, I've shown this video in the past on my other channel. I'm going to show it again here. He's referred to as the Agent Smith of physics, and he doesn't deserve to be. He hasn't done anything to earn him that spot. But what it is, in my opinion, is like an Einstein. He's been enlightened by the people who run the show, and they've given him the authority to police physicists in the community, and he'll ruin your life if you don't adhere to what he teaches you or what he tells you it is. So here is a Joe Rogan episode. I'm going to show you this real quick. So give me a second. And you've probably seen bits of pieces of this episode before.
1950s.
And
Did something happen? Why during the 1950s? Did something happen that resulted in a 70-year stagnation in a field called quantum gravity? Quantum gravity is like a startup that it cannot ship a product after 70 years. And it's still taken over in theoretical physics as sort of the prestige theory field.
And quantum gravity, is there an application for this that they were attempting to achieve?
It's not a precursor to technology so far as we know. But what happened was quantum gravity was a replacement for something that used to be known as the unified field. So Einstein wasn't chasing quantum gravity. He was chasing unified field theory. That fell out of favor. Unified field theory becomes sort of like a joke, old-timey expression for the future of physics. And we substituted quantum gravity for the merger of quantum theory, quantum field theory, quantum mechanics, and gravitational physics under general relativity. How is it that the field became convinced that something which clearly doesn't seem to work and has had all of the resources, all of the best minds at its disposal, it sucks up everything, and it just doesn't work?
To be specific,
Yeah.
like how many people are working on this problem? And how many people have been working on this problem for 70 years without progress?
I would say that the period between 1953 and 73, there are parallel things. Quantum gravity is not the mainstream at all. Okay? So real physics is happening between 53 and 73 by anybody's understanding of it.
Okay.
One single individual who is the most dominant mind on planet Earth at the moment, effectively Voldemort, the person whose name we are a little bit afraid to invoke and cause wrath, said in 1984, no, string theory is the way. This anomaly cancellation was unexpected, and it clearly points to the fact that we are, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to quantize.
Who's that person?
Edward Witten.
And in physics circles, you're not allowed to bring this guy up?
You know, we talk about him. Everybody talks about him. But to challenge him? Think about Agent Smith. Think about playing one-on-one with Michael Jordan in his prime.
He's that good.
Joe, I don't think... I'm dumb enough not to be intellectually afraid of anyone else on planet Earth at this point. I am terrified of this person.
Really?
And has never made contact with the physical world. So it's like one of the greatest conundrums. So let me get back to how
What do
crazy...
you mean by never made contact?
No Nobel Prize, never predicted something that turned out to be true, never pointed us to do an experiment that was then validated. So 100% of his efforts have been not making contact with physical reality. Oh, this is... I'm sorry, like you have people like Michio Kaku who are in this string theoretic school. Well, Sean Carroll is very sympathetic to it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand this story. 1957 conference at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. One of the most eminent mathematician physicists, guy who was first ranked at Cambridge, was a guy named Hermann Bondi, an Austrian, I think, mathematician. And his paper is about negative mass in general relativity. If you have two masses, in general, they always attract each other gravitationally. But what if somehow you had a different kind of mass that was negative, just like you could have negative and positive charges? Oddly, the negative mass is still attracted just the same way to the positive mass as if there was no difference. But the positive mass is always repelled. So you get this weird solution where the negative mass chases the positive mass, and they go off to unbounded acceleration. So Bondi was thinking about, why is it that we've got these artificial conditions in general relativity which we impose by hand? They're not the same beautiful marble.
Anyway, continue to watch that episode. That's called Eric Weinstein. I'm Terrified of This Man. That's a million view episode on YouTube a year ago. So with that said, hopefully I've set the stage now. This is part 1. I'm going to continue into part 2 so that this video actually uploads. So please watch. Well, I'll just try to get it all in this video here. I'll just jump into this. So, really long story short, there are people in certain high places who know that they have to keep us distracted away from the real truth of physics if they don't want us to blow everything up. And so they have created an artificial physics that doesn't quite make sense. And it keeps you from realizing how to make things like nukes and then make them more efficient. And that same science is the same science of electrolysis, where you split where you split molecules of hydrogen and oxygen using electrolysis, which is a known fact that you can do that to have oxygen, hydrogen burning cars off of a gas tank full of water, okay? It's a known fact that if you have enough electricity, you can do that, but it's not a quote-unquote over-unity reaction, meaning it's not more efficient than gasoline-burning cars, so to speak, unless there's a certain geometry where all of a sudden the electrodes make the water bubble up into hydrogen and oxygen at a much more efficient rate, at which point now you actually are releasing enough energy. And a lot of people say there's no such thing as a over-unity reaction. Well, understand something. Technically speaking, you could say a nuclear bomb is an over-unity reaction. You use a little charge to get the explosion going, and then boom, you get a really big explosion out. And you say, well, Brandon, that's because it's stored atomic energy, just like there's stored chemical energy. Right, and that's what I'm saying is the same thing in a gallon of water or in a glass of water. You have stored energy, and if you can figure out how to release that efficiently, then all of a sudden, kabam, you've got a lot of energy, okay? And you've got a whole ocean full of it. But the problem is, it's all negative trade-offs, because if all of a sudden you have this device that can do this, then the ocean becomes flammable, okay? Maybe you got to run it all through a flamethrower, but next thing you know, you got these big flamethrower boats, and we're all in flamethrower war with each other, shooting flames at each other's boats, okay? It just turns into like Waterworld 2.0. But the point is, except for the fact that we run out of water because everybody's using their flamethrower boats. But the point is, and the next thing you know, you're like Mars. And so once you understand that these conspiracies must exist, put yourself into a top physicist's area. It's like, do you want to waste your life messing around with shit that doesn't work? Or do you want to go to Wall Street and make a ton of fucking money and have a clear conscience that you're smarter than the masses, and now you're going to prove it in yet another way where you can actually make some money? And so in my opinion, that's what's basically going on with a lot of physicists. They're going to Wall Street, they're concocting these ways to get the masses to lose their money. And I think right now what's going on is bonds. They want the masses to go into bonds, so they're trying to crash the stock market at a very specific time so that people go into bonds, and they're going to make the stock market fly. And the way that they're crashing the stock market is they are telling you all that quantum computers are the same as artificial intelligence. Two completely different things. And they're using this whole crash to also crash NVIDIA and Intel and AMD and all these other chip makers. They're using, and a super microcomputer, they're using this crash to crash all of it, okay? And they want to do these crashes right when there's breakout moments. So whenever there's these breakout moments, when the masses all start betting on the winning horse of NVIDIA going up, aka calls at NVIDIA or calls at Supermicro computer, that's when they instigate these crashes to then they bet on the long horse, where they bet on oh, we think that the quantum computer company that everybody's so excited about, that RGTI that I just showed you a little bit ago, we think it's going to go to $14. We think it's going to go to $18, and we think it's going to go to $14, and we think it's going to go to $9. Yeah, that's what we think is going to happen. And they bet on that, and all the money that you lost goes to them, just like the horse track. All the losers' money goes to the people who bet accordingly. The stock market is a zero-sum game. People who play the stock market for a living, they're not producing any goods or services for mankind. Their money, every Ferrari they drive, every house they buy, came from someone else who lost. And so you say, oh, well, that's horrible. We need to teach people about this. We need to make that quote-unquote illegal somehow because we need to make the system more fair. Well, let's play devil's advocate again. It took me a long time to understand all this stuff, but if them stymieing your economy keeps you so busy at work to try to make ends meet that you can never figure out the true physics, not only are they keeping the world safe by giving you the wrong physics equations, they're keeping the world safe by keeping you at work all day long doing your 9 to 5 where you're too busy to experiment and tinker with physics and watch YouTube videos, okay? So there's a greater good behind what they're doing potentially, and now all of a sudden it makes sense where you say, why are the elites fucking up the economy? There's no such thing as the economy. There's my economy, there's your economy, there's his economy, there's her economy, and when you're in a zero-sum game like the stock market, if your economy goes to shit, rest assured someone else has got better. If your economy stays the same and everybody else's economy stays the same, so will the third and fourth and fifth and eighth, 10th person's economy all stay the same because no one's winning or losing. So obviously on this planet, there's things where you say, okay, well, when we farm, it's not a zero-sum game. It's a positive-sum game. We plant crops, we get more crops. We can put the seeds back in the ground, we get more crops. We can breed sheep and cattle and goats and chickens. And they eat the insects in the field, so we don't need pesticides. And then that, of course, makes it so the food grows. Now we don't have to use by the way, the GMOs is not the GMO that's the problem. The GMO is just saying we've altered the plant so that it doesn't fuck you up, or so that the plant doesn't die when we put things like glyphosate and things all over them, which are chemicals which are what can harm you potentially. Okay, if eaten in large quantities, we'll say. So that it's a proven fact that the Monsanto guy wouldn't drink a pitcher of glyphosate. He's like, hell no. So glyphosate in large quantities can hurt you. Monsanto says that in small quantities it can't. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to argue that point in this video. But the point is, hopefully you understand what I'm saying there. So let's see, what else do we have then? I think that's about it. Let me delve into, I've actually cracked like what it is that they're trying to keep secret in general. So they teach you that the electrons are no places at all and two places at once, and that they do this spooky stuff where they do these bounce around situations that don't make sense. And so they say it's all like a probability cloud of where the electron might be, but there's no way to ever know exactly where it's at. I know, not the exact equation, but I believe that I could figure it out if I work towards it. But I know the principle behind why the electron appears to behave that way and what it's actually really doing. And there's another thing that makes quantum theory supposedly relevant, and that is spooky communication at a distance, where you have these two different electrons moving, spinning in two opposite directions, and you separate them, take them to far distances, and if you change one, then the change affects the other, because the electrons communicated over the speed of light instantaneously, they say. And they say that the speed of light can't be broken, but they say that communication is magic. So what they've just done there is they've filled you up with a few more lies. They say the speed of light can't be broken, which it can be, and they say that there's this magical communication between the two. It's not magical, it can be explained once you understand that the speed of light can be broken by something much faster. And so, again, the elites don't want the masses to be able to communicate at over the speed of light. We're basically being held down to that level of speed, and the elites are able to communicate at faster than the speed of light, which allows them to further game the stock market. They know that you put in a buy or a sell order before Wall Street computers know, because they can have a computer that intercepts the signal and sends another signal at over the speed of light to cause the elite's computer, which is right next to the Wall Street hub, to make trades, okay, before your trade comes in, so they can beat you. So literally, you can click buy or sell a stock, and before that buy or sell stock signal gets to Wall Street to where it actually goes into effect, instead what happens is, as it's on its way there, it's read through one of the satellite hubs. It's read and taught to the elite's computers that either have shorter distance cables that make the transactions before your longer distance route, or, okay, which is the simple way to do it, what I just explained, or they use over speed of light communication, and they can literally drag race your signal to the main computer, and they don't want you to know how these systems work. So it's cloak taxation without representation is what it is. It's how they stay on top. And that's enough for that episode. I'll probably end up doing a part 2 of this in a minute. But just know quantum computers don't work because the physics behind them is flawed. And if you know that, then you know that it's a bubble that's inevitably going to pop. And all you have to do is have one of your buddies, which in this case, the CEO of NVIDIA, who is seen coming and going from Rockefeller Center constantly. So he's playing the game. He's saying, look, I want to be wealthy. I want to get these, computers out to the world. I'm not trying to override the big boys. Tell me what I got to do and when I got to do it, and I'll play ball. So, he announces that quantum computers are, quote unquote, 15 years out. And the masses think that he's saying that NVIDIA sucks. When in reality, he's not saying NVIDIA sucks. He's telling that NVIDIA is all that's real, which is what I've put up on my YouTube and Facebook recently, explaining NVIDIA and SMCI are the real deal. Everything else is bullshit. But all the masses are gravitating towards bullshit, which is pulling all the masses' money away from NVIDIA, pulling the masses' money away from SMCI, so that then when SMCI and NVIDIA fly, the masses don't make money, the elites do. See ya.